Tonight we are premiering the first of our multi-part documentary series about hunger in Watertown. You may have already seen a series of articles written by myself and Watertown News editor Charlie Brightrose, with whom WCATV partnered on this project. Back in February, we hosted a roundtable discussion at Watertown's Mosesian Center for the Arts with 5 local stakeholders to dive deeper into these very intertwined issues. We interviewed more than a dozen experts, volunteers, city officials, and people who live with hunger every day to learn more.
Food insecurity was an issue long before the pandemic hit, and then when the pandemic hit, it just was exacerbated, and it has not stopped.
How to start when talking about hunger? It's a pervasive yet nearly invisible problem. Who is going hungry, and in this land of plenty, why? We first spoke with former Watertown Community Foundation Executive Director Jan Singer. She told us about how the pandemic brought a lot of issues to the forefront in a way that they had never been before.
During my tenure at the foundation, the pandemic hit, and it uncovered vast discrepancies that had been happening for years and years here in Watertown, but during the pandemic, it came to the fore. So one thing I learned right away, I got a crash course in housing, because people will do anything they can to maintain their housing, because once you become unhoused, it's almost impossible to get back. All money, all resources would go to maintain a stable housing if they could. So our first grant was to help people stay in their houses. So we helped subsidize even people who are already subsidized, just to make sure that they wouldn't be evicted.
Kathy Cunningham is the director of the Watertown Food Pantry. She said the number of people they serve on a week-to-week basis increased drastically after 2020.
When I first began here, we were doing 40 families a week, and that was based over 2 days. So it was on Tuesday and Thursday. It graduated up to about probably 70 families. And then once the pandemic hit, we were running approximately 200 families every single day that we were open, which was okay. It was fine. We made sure that we did a lot of outreach. We had a lot of feeder programs. We were never without. We never let anybody go hungry or anything on that level. And anybody that had COVID and couldn't come, we delivered to them. Now we're averaging between 140, 160 each week.
Pastor Gary Richards, whose church has been the home of the food pantry for the last 3 decades, says he's seen people from all walks of life come through the pantry. What kind of constellation of people do you see coming through? Do you see a lot of people from like one particular demographic, or is it all sorts?
When I pass through the food pantry, I see people from all walks of life. There's no questions asked from anybody in terms of their status in the community or work life, but you can see that folks have come as single individuals, senior citizens, mothers with children when school is out. It's really a resource for all people that feel that they have a need.
Beyond the Watertown Food Pantry and the more recently established Community Fridge, the Watertown Farmers Market is another resource the community can use to get relatively low-cost, high-quality food. But there are people who are eligible for help who are not taking advantage of it.
The market provides food assistance that you can't get in other places, which is why we're always trying to reach more people. We have 2 programs related to food benefits. So SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, coming down through the USDA and the states, is one of the programs where we serve people through our SNAP Match program. People who are receiving SNAP benefits also have access to free produce through the Healthy Incentive Program. We know in Watertown we've got about 9% of people using SNAP benefits, and we've got at least that amount, maybe a little bit more, that qualify but aren't enrolled. And we call that the SNAP gap. Food insecurity has increased significantly, as we all know. And so we're working even harder to try and reach those folks that could benefit with more food through the farmers market.
When the pandemic hit, struggling folks and hungry families suddenly had access to a range of benefits. These were meant to counter the inflating costs of food and other essential services. But now, those benefits have largely dried up or been cut off, and prices keep soaring.
I'm Sophia Suarez-Friedman. I work at Wayside at the Multi-Service Center in Watertown. And one of my roles is I'm the Watertown Social Services Resource Specialist. So we're contracted through the City of Watertown to provide social services for Watertown residents 18 to 59. January through March of 2020, we served less than 10 households with access to food. And then ever since April 2020 and on, every quarter it's been between 30 and 60 households we're supporting with food. With the pandemic came more benefits. So that was mostly across the board. There were higher benefit levels for families as well as additional state, federal, local funding. Now that that funding has ended, people are continuing to struggle because costs overall have increased. We know costs for food have increased, and now they're getting less benefits through their SNAP benefits or food stamps. So that's why the need really feels high still.
With everyone we spoke to, there was one theme that all of them echoed, that there is a definite connection between the rising number of people who need food assistance and the rising cost of housing.
So money first goes to housing. It just has to, because people don't want to be on the street. And so then food goes by the wayside.
If people could have affordable, safe, quality housing, they would have our neighbors would have a lot more money to spend on food and health care.
Over the course of this series, you'll hear more from all these folks and many others about how and why food insecurity persists here. And you'll also meet the people working to fix the problem and help as many people as they can. We would like to extend a huge thank you to the Watertown Community Foundation for providing WCATV and Watertown News with a generous grant to chronicle these issues of food insecurity and hunger in our community.